All right, ladies and girls, boys and gentlemen, and friends and ladies and...
It's not how we do it.
Oh, you want to do it in your signature Hobbit style?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for Talking Tesla 141. We're here in the studio. There's been a couple of changes. First of all, I'm replicating a virus. I will probably die before we finish the recording. I would really like you guys to shut up and get to the point.
On the plus side, Robert... coughing and in scrubs may or may not be able to help you if you do die. I mean, you are replicating virus. I get it.
Yes.
That's kind of a Blade Runner-y type of a thing. Robert just got off of a shift, so he probably has his own viral load.
Tuberculosis.
Over me.
Remember the first time you took me into the hospital, you said, do you have tuberculosis? And I said, no. And he said, you do now.
That's because I'm funny. But also kind of serious. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we did this thing where we're going to sit on chairs. So, that, you know, most of the height difference is in the legs.
Yeah.
And so now Robin and I are not so disparate.
That's true.
Now
But
we look
Tom
like
apparently has grown an awful lot.
I cannot sit down because Mel has given me a task. So while we're doing this show, I'll be looking at you gentlemen, and I'll be looking down here so everybody can see the bald spot, which is nice, a little addition to my life in the last few years.
Yeah.
And so I'll be doing the video switching, so that's going to be lovely. So this show is going to be like stool.
It's terrible. So the device over there is the switching device, but there's nobody in the room to switch.
No, we can't make fun of our 52 producers,
pointing
which
at
we
like
do.
16 feet away
So
behind
Tom
glass.
has got the remote switcher over here, and he's going to
Yeah.
switch the show. So if it is crap,
That's so we
his
can.
fault.
Hashtag blame Tom.
That's why we can do the show with just the three of us, and we don't have to pay the rest of the crew. We fired them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
join Patreon.
yeah, we so
Patreon.
need somebody to be in that room.
CC's baby is now
That's right.
being sold on the open market.
Oh,
CC.
gosh.
What's going on here?
Just kidding.
All right, who wants to rant about some service centers, and let's get to it, and don't be nasty.
Okay.
Okay,
well,
be
then
nasty.
Never mind. So we take our Model S and 3 to the service center that rhymes with man eyes.
Right.
So I don't want to call anybody out.
All right.
So 4 months, literally months, every time my wife takes the Model S in there for any kind of
To
thing,
man eyes.
to man eyes,
Man eyes.
they to the Esla man eyes
Yes.
Irvis enter.
Yes, yes.
Right. There's a tire pressure warning that's been going on for months. Tire pressure warning. Tire pressure warning. Tire pressure warning.
Nag.
Right. And so finally we'd had enough. And we took it in.
Done with this.
And they said, well, what's happening is the antennas on the crappy TPMS, that's what they're called, tire pressure monitoring system, that attach to the valves are crappy. The ones that we installed in that 2013 Model S that you own.
Oh,
and
it's true.
And they're failing.
Yes.
And they're failing. And so we have a replacement. We've repaired that.
Excellent.
But it's $750.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not willing to pay $750. Turns out, I don't know if you guys knew this. We bought our car used. It's under warranty still.
Oh, well, what did they say then?
They don't talk to each other. They don't communicate very well in the computer systems with one another.
Hello?
So
Is this
it's
thing
already
on?
been happening for months, and they didn't realize that how to fix it for months. And now
Oh.
they finally realize that they should fix it. What
Right.
the actual problem is. And then they're like $750. So I get a text like, "Hey, give us a call. We want to talk to you." And he's like, "Oh, it's $750." I'm like, "I'm not paying $750. I can go to Costco and get TPMS from them for $30 a tire, whatever." And they're like, "Well, we don't have to pay the $750. You can pay the $70 for the system that we know is failing." They were willing to put those back on, just for the record, and $70 each plus $50 tire installation thing. I was like, "I'm not doing that either. I don't know what is wrong with you people." I said, "If I put my own TPMS, will it talk?" Long story short, then
Very
they
long
finally
fucking
realized that the car is under warranty, and they're like,
Yes.
"No problem, we're going to take care of it." So 48 hours ago, she brought the car in.
Yes.
They gave her a loaner, gas guzzler,
No.
Jaguar.
Oh.
And she said, "I don't even know how to go to a gas station." And they're like, "That's cool. Just bring it back empty. No problem."
Pushing
And
the car
Yesterday,
in.
I get a text from the service guy who shall remain nameless, but you know who you are. And he's like, "Oh, can you give me a call? We'd really love to replace your TPMS."
You have the car.
Yeah.
For 2 days.
Right. Right. So then I call him up and he starts going through the antennas on the thing are not very good. He
here
starts
we
to
go
go through the
again.
whole thing and I'm like, hold on.
Stop,
I
we've
said,
been there.
stop. I was on
This
a
is
call.
sort of like deja vu.
I was like, stop. I said, are you about to tell me that I can replace my TPMS with a $750 system? He's like, yeah, how'd you know that? And I'm like,
I also see dead people.
so I was like, you need to stop and you need to go look in
No
your computer
threats.
and you need to figure out what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
And then and give me a text back because I don't have time to talk to you people anymore. You're driving me crazy.
Are
So
they
they finally texted me.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, no problem. We messed up. So apparently the service system don't talk to the sales system, so they
Well.
don't understand the VINs with the warranty and the whole situation.
Yes.
But regardless of all that, $750 for DPMS?
I have two things to say.
Oh,
Two things to say.
please.
Just two.
The first thing.
Hold on one second. Can you move that microphone closer to you, please?
It's funny, I was having the same anxiety. It's like,
The same
work
anxiety.
the mic.
I have two things to say.
Okay, great.
One, sitting here under you.
I know,
lower,
it's like you're talking down to
lower,
us.
I feel intimidated. I
he's
feel
gonna
like,
hit us.
Well, then
oh,
it's
no,
working.
I
Sorry,
hope
Dad.
Tom doesn't get mad on me. And secondly, it's like they're ramping up this big car company with all these people who came from other car companies and at other service dealerships in Van Nuys.
Man,
Man-
eyes.
Man eyes.
Man-wise.
I was going to try and do that in a Yiddish, very
that's-
nice.
yeah, that's good.
Very
Very
nice.
nice,
Very
very
nice.
very nice.
And so bringing in folks from all these other, corners of the automobile industry, some bad habits follow. I don't know that they get it. I've had the same kind of
Computer
experience.
bad habits. It's like it could be like, do
Well.
you not look at your? And my wife had talked to the guy literally when she dropped it off. The guy who texted me.
Yeah.
And he's like, no problem. Even gave her the international symbol for we got it. Thumbs up.
Yeah.
When you get the thumbs up,
Right.
you're golden.
You can't just be giving out the thumbs up. It's got to
in
stand for something.
automobile racing, right? If you're like, go thumbs up. In rocket shipping, thumbs up. That is good stuff right there.
You can take the reservations, but that's not really the point,
Very
is it?
nice. So, anyways, very frustrating. I don't understand why they're paying $750, charging $750 for a replacement TPMS system on any car. That seems like a lot of money. A friend of mine told me that's not the issue if you were going to buy it. It's a luxury vehicle, so of course everything on it is luxury.
Right.
That doesn't feel like a Tesla thing to charge.
But they
a
said
person
long
for.
ago they weren't in the business of service to make money. So,
Yeah. So $750. You think that's a lot?
should we
Yes.
move on?
Mm-hmm. Let's move on.
Okay.
I just wanted to say I didn't want to start the show off sounding like another podcast that ends in an S that is bagging on the brand constantly and making it sound like we're a bunch of haters or short selling stalkers.
We're
So-
not haters. I just want to point this stuff out because
Yeah.
they need to fix it because
Right.
they're selling a ton of cars.
an F ton.
An S ton, an
S-ton.
F ton,
Yeah.
all of the tons.
3 ton.
Okay.
Every an order of magnetons, all
Yeah.
of
Oh,
the stuff.
order of magneton.
Magneton. That could
Ooh,
be a
that's a
new
good
one.
one. Yeah,
Yeah, I like that. So I had an embarrassing moment, and I realized just telling it here, this is going to sort of out my greatest fear. But I Sunday was going to meet somebody at a yoga class, and got in my car. Timing's all good. Get in the car, and the main screen is black. And on the binnacle screen of my Model S, it says powering up. Press on the brake when this disappears. I was like, okay. So, pressed on the brake, nothing happened. I'm putting my stuff away, starting to get out my little camera to play with, and it's still there. And I press on it again. And after about 5 minutes, I decided, let's start videotaping this. This could be an interesting segment for YouTube Talking Tesla.
These are good
Except
times.
there is nothing going on. I sat there a total of not 10 minutes,
No, not 10 minutes.
15 minutes.
That's a lot of minutes. Will you stop?
This is the sound of pain. The pain that I'm feeling about this
It is
story.
yeah, you know what? It's the sound of pain for anybody with earbuds in who has
Sorry.
you in their ear.
It's just-
And so I grab my bag, I go upstairs, I call a lift, I take a lift
oh my.
for $12.
Was it
to
a
where
Tesla
I was going.
lift?
No.
No.
Holy macaroni.
And then I do my whole thing and I take a lift back, which is not bad. You know,
Still
I don't
pairing
have,
up.
I don't have to
Did
drive.
you do the 2 fingers?
I did it.
On the
I tried
buttons,
the scroll wheel reset, the top button reset. Nada.
Did you get out of the car and back into the car?
I did a couple of backflips in front of the car.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Van Damme.
I tried massaging it, in the hindquarters area, but nothing.
Hello. Nothing.
Nothing.
I bet there was.
So it was
something.
bricked.
I got no reaction. And then
Bricked.
get this.
Nice.
I came back 5 hours later. I used my video again and took video. And I got back in the car and guess what it said?
Tesla.
Powering up.
But it works now.
And then I got in. I did the same thing. I did a soft reset with the scroll wheels.
Yeah.
The center screen went down. And then all of a sudden, it disappeared. I put my foot on it, and it came alive. So
upsetting.
that was, only, 5.5 hours?
That's a
Maybe a
long
little less.
time. I mean, my 3 does that constantly, but it's once I start driving, because I can drive the car in that frame of darkness.
What's
Oh, right.
constantly? It's rebooting the.
It's
center
like you get like so
screen?
sometimes you get in the car and the screen is on and it's ready for you and ready to go, right? And a lot of times I'll get in the car and the screen is black. And I know what's happening because it's happened so many times. And I put the car in reverse and I start to back out, and then I get the little Tesla logo that pops up, and the car, then reboots, and the rear reverse camera's on.
Right,
it's
you have
ready
no
to go.
reverse camera.
Right, I don't have a reverse camera. I can barely even get out of my parking space when that's happening. I'm all scared. Am I going to hit something?
Well,
I don't know how to drive normally anymore.
Teslas are safer. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
So you're all whiny. I'm going to tell you some good things. Ready?
Yeah.
One, first of all, I got a check for $284 from a class action lawsuit against Tesla. And I was pretty excited.
So that $284, is that what you said? That $284, what is that class action? What is that covering? What is that the damage is from?
know.
I know.
I think it's from the fully autonomous driving
Yeah,
thing.
that's what it's from.
Doesn't
So
exist.
You spent $5,000 and they gave you $284.
Let me do the math on this. Hang on a second. I might have been ripped off.
That is not the ROI you are looking for, my friend.
These are not the dollars you're looking for. Oh, well, you wrecked that story. Now you can wreck this one. I just got an email this morning. We'd like to come over and set up for your solar roof that you asked us to put in 2.5 years ago.
That's great. So when are they coming?
Well, I had to send them an email saying, I put a roof and a standard solar panel on that 2 years ago because I couldn't wait.
Come on.
But at least now they're asking people, do you want to get this thing installed? So they're moving along. We're going to get back to that a little bit later because there is some other news on that. But somebody here, I think it is Robert, as it says Robert, has a story he would like to tell us.
Yes. This is from the Wall Street Journal. I was caught by this story. It was called "Think Electric Vehicles Are Great Now? ? Just wait."
Okay, I'm going to.
And this is from Dan Neal.
Dan Neal.
Yeah.
Danny boy.
Dan's has not traditionally been an electric car fan. He is the car reporter for the Wall Street Journal.
Fun gig, I bet.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Guys who read the Wall Street Journal primarily, and some
guys.
gals, are into big cars. In fact, when I met him a couple years ago at the Santa Monica Alt Car Expo, he gets off a plane and has a Ducati waiting for him.
Of course he does. He's Dan Neal.
That's right.
From the Wall Street Journal.
And so at that time, he was pretty kind of
A Ducati or a Bugatti? A motorcycle?
Ducati
A
motorcycle.
Wow, look at him.
Yeah.
Very nice.
He came in with his leather on. And so he was very lukewarm to any electric vehicles at that time. But he wrote this article that really took me by surprise. He said that basically, don't bother buying a gasoline car.
What?
It's over. It's all over.
Thank goodness.
I know.
Finally.
Huge.
He says he's waiting himself to choose one of the scores of electric vehicle models that he knows are coming in the next 1.5 to 3 years. He says a gas-powered vehicle for him is too expensive.
What?
Yeah. He says he plans to keep his next vehicle 10 years at least. And over that time, the cost of ownership, including fuel, repairs, maintenance, is going to be considerably more than an internal combustion car.
I have a question.
Considerably lower.
Did he give you any specific vehicle he was talking to when he was number crunching?
Well, it sounds like he wants a truck.
Oh, hello.
So he's talking about a vehicle that doesn't exist.
That's true. That's true. In fact, in the article, he talks about getting spray paint cans to spray over his minivan where it's rusting out so that it can go another couple years. It was kind of
He's
a
very
little,
con-
a
it's a
bit of an
little-
interesting lame approach.
Oh, lame approach.
But I liked what he was saying. He says his other big worry is resale value. He says if you haven't been following the news, the Paris climate talks, the nations of the world have put the ICE vehicle on a death sentence.
Yes.
Yeah. By the
Judge,
end of
jury, and executioner. They were at the Global Climate Summit.
yes, at the end of this last year, EVs on the road increased 50% over 2 years. It's pretty big. This is International Energy Agency numbers. This is worldwide. And he says during the reasonable service life of any vehicle bought today, he expects the demand for internal combustion vehicles will drop to practically zero, like flip phones. So over 6 to 10 years.
I found a
Yes.
flip phone in my garage the other day, and I was excited. I was like, wonder if this thing will work.
My son is using an old flip phone.
If he needs one, let me know.
Yeah.
I got a spare.
Yeah, he probably will. He says nobody's going to want an internal combustion car. You're not going to be able to get them fixed. By the time widespread fleet electrification will have cratered the traditional dealerships that depend on service dollars to survive. And this reminds me of when we talked to Galileo of hyper change. I got that wrong the last time. My apologies, Galileo. He was telling us at the Rivian event that if a certain percentage of if gas stations lose a certain percentage of business,
Correct.
it was like 10 to 20,
10%.
10%, that they basically would collapse.
Like, that's their margin.
Right. That would take away their profit margin.
Correct.
And they would have to close. So if another big year for Tesla and a couple of other makers comes around, that might put your supply of gasoline for your ICE car in serious.
Right. But he's talking about the next 10 years. Not every service station is going to be
Right,
gone
it's gonna be
in
a
10 years.
That's true.
Right?
It's going to be
It'll
like
be
a cost.
slow,
It'll be
and then
harder
it'll
and harder
start-
to get your car in. Like
Yeah.
trying to find a primary care doctor these
Yeah.
days.
How are you going
in.
to get to San Francisco? I mean, like all those gas stations along the way, how many of them will stay open?
It'll be interesting to watch the market forces as
Yeah.
many close, and then you'll get to the point where, it'll be a pain. Like, oh, there's superchargers everywhere, and gas stations there's almost none, and then it's like,
Yeah.
stop, the gas car is dead.
Right. And the same thing for dealerships. If the dealerships start going out of business,
Yeah.
then your place to service your vehicle and your supply of parts are also going to go away. And with the current just-in-time delivery of parts and supplies, that's going to be a big issue.
And the oil and gas and car industry is going to do what they always do. Instead of changing and getting on board with the new technology, they're going to fight with money to politicians to try and put in ridiculous laws to try and stop this thing that can't possibly be stopped.
Right. So in essence, you're better off buying a Tesla and having, let's call it some problems occasionally at the Man-I service center than buying an ICE car and wondering what happened to the Chevy dealer that you bought your car from.
Yeah, he said that he quoted the chief financial officer for Continental, which is a tier 1 global automotive supplier.
They make the tires.
Well, I think they make a lot of other stuff
They also
too.
make the TPMS, I believe, that Tesla's using.
And he said that this CFO said that the internal combustion development at the German car makers will be effectively ending in 2023.
So you're talking Porsche,
yeah,
Mercedes,
BMW.
Volkswagen, BMW,
Audi.
Audi.
right. This is from
there's
his
probably
perspective
more, right?
that they're not developing further,
2023.
more complicated engines.
So when we started this show, we were waiting for EVs to come out in 2020, and now during the length of this show, this guy from the Wall Street Journal is basically saying they're not going to design any more cars 3 years after that. No more ICE cars coming out of Germany.
yeah, so we're in the sort of like cross.
It's
the,
amazing.
crossing
You know what
like
we're
that.
going to need? Some charging infrastructure.
Structure. Hello.
A suite.
Yes.
And so basically, he's now a fan. He called the Model 3 an amazeballs crazy good car.
Correct.
Which it is.
He himself is waiting for the Rivian R1T.
As am I.
Yeah, and a few other people I know.
Tesla.
And he said, if you don't agree, that's fine. Go ahead and finance your $70,000 pickup with V8 power for the next 60 months. And it'll end up being a 2-ton albatross around your financial neck before the time is up. And gasoline could be free and you'll still hate the car.
Wow, this is very aggressive.
Very aggressive.
I'm not sure
So
that is
you-
true in a 5-year period, but in a 10-year period, I think it's bad.
I mean, I think you're getting close. But again, the problem that you have is you got to build a lot of cars in 10 years to replace the global fleet. we talk about this a lot,
Yeah.
right? 30 million cars a year is the capacity. No one's making the electric car, like no one's making that many electric cars. So is there going to be a point where there's like this weird supply and demand void where like you don't want a gas car and you can't get an electric car? Are you going to walk? Are
Well,
you going to buy a bike?
Did a year and a half ago when we first started talking about the Model 3 coming out, right? It was a year and a half ago that they said in July of 2017 that they were going to start putting out the Model 3, and we all were like, "What? You're crazy! That's so early." That was Elon's push stretch goal, and now we're pumping them out full speed. The numbers we'll go over in a few minutes are really impressive.
Yeah.
I think we can do it.
It'll be an interesting thing what that'll be true in the West, and then people talk about, and then gas prices will plummet because demand is going to go way down, and so the prices for gases for gasoline will go way down,
and for barrels of oil will.
But that will mean in developing countries, the cheapest thing to possibly get will be a gas car and gasoline because it'll all be cheap.
Unless they buy that Chinese $10,000 little electric car with 150
so
miles.
that's my hope, is that the electric cars then will become so cheap that even that won't work, so that we don't have this sort of another 10 or 20 year period where every car in the third world is a gas guzzling.
Right, but then you have even more acute infrastructure problems, right? They already have a lot of electrical grid issues in a lot of those countries.
True.
So adding that to it, so all of that becomes even more, wow, how are we going to fix that aspect of it? It's very, very challenging.
But over the long term, if you can get the electric car cost down, if you can get the battery backup down, if you get the solar price down, in the developing countries, the cheapest way over the long term to run your house, to your car, and your life will be to have all that infrastructure yourself. And just like boom,
for sure. But you could also run into a situation where there's a cottage industry for all these ICE cars from the West, and I don't like using that East-West, rich, poor, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, it's basically north-south.
Start shipped over because then, like the tobacco companies, like when they stop making a lot of money in the States and in Western, more developed countries, what do? They started pushing harder into these other places.
Right.
Will the gas companies be like, fine, let's build charging infrastructure in these, or gas filling infrastructure in these other countries where it doesn't have it, and keep those fuel prices
and that can
down.
last a long time if you think about Cuba and the cars that are there that get sort of pieced back together and patched up, and they're running cars that are 70 years old, not well,
but they could start
they're
taking
doing
our
it.
cars, right? The 90 cars, the 2000 cars, and shipping them overseas in containers. All these containers come here, they sit here empty.
When I was in Kenya, like every ex-Japanese car, like you'd get into a car or a lift, you'd get in with your friends, and it would be a Toyota, it would be a pickup, and all of the stuff would be in Japanese. And basically the Japanese, like, when they were done with them, they just put them on a boat and sent them down to Kenya and resold them again at a lower price.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Let's move on and talk about EV sales to go along with the same kind of idea that EV sales are taking off.
So this is actually some pretty interesting stuff. Do you guys have an idea of what the top selling EV was in 2012? It sold 26,000 units.
In 2012. Yeah, the Leaf was probably the top selling car back then.
If you don't have the answer to this, I'm going to slap you upside the head.
I'm going to have the answer. You've got to give me a quick
the Leaf.
freaking section.
I bought one.
Oh.
The Leaf.
2012.
Come on.
The leading car sold was the Chevrolet Volt.
Ooh. Oh, that's a plug-in hybrid.
Okay, fine. The Nissan Leaf sold 9,800 units, and the Chevy Volt sold 23,000 units.
Wow. And how many do they make now?
Zero.
Well, there is that. So I thought that was pretty interesting piece of information. And the Model S was sold for 7 months in that same year. How many of those do you think they sold?
2012?
2012.
7 months.
7 months. They probably made two a month.
Two a month.
It was like 3,000.
No, they made
very close.
Oh, I won't say anything then.
2,650. They sold 12 in June.
Right. They were the ones on that.
That's pretty awesome.
That they let people drive off from the factory.
Those must have been like the 40s, right?
Oh, maybe there was a 40 in there.
Yeah.
40 kilowatt hour.
They made
battery.
like 700 S 40 kilowatt
And by the
hour
time
cars.
December rolled around, they sold 1,790 of them. So that's kind of
Excellent.
interesting. In 2011, 17,000 EVs were sold in the U.S. This is basically like the kind of the first year that the EVs started to hit the road. What 3 models were all of these cars? Do you guys know? You've already named a couple of them.
The Roadster.
Okay. That wasn't really one that's on the list. Those are
Leaf.
called other this generation
The Leaf.
plugins. But so you have the Volt, the Leaf, and the Mitsubishi IMIEV.
I remember
IMIEV.
driving that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it was like you were sitting in
Yeah.
a bubble.
That one went on sale in December. They sold 80.
Yeah.
it contributed 80
was
to
kind
the
of a-
17,000
It was
number.
cute, but it was a rather pathetic little car.
So, that's just a little historical look back at the EVs. And then right now in 2018, 2017, Tesla sold 27,000 Model S's. That was the number one selling vehicle in 2017. 2018 numbers, little drum roll. Do you guys have any idea how far we've come? The Model 3, how many total units?
145,000.
139,782, according to this article. The next closest vehicle, the Prius Prime,
It's like 30,000.
27,500.
What
And then you have the Model X, 26,000. Interesting. More X's than S's.
Yeah,
By
this
just
year.
a skosh amount. And I am starting to see a lot more X's.
Yeah.
So good on you, EV people.
Well, that's fascinating stuff.
Thank you.
Let us move on. And
Please.
Elon Musk reveals when electric cars might finally reach the tipping point.
What?
So this was, I can't remember where.
Apple News.
It's from Apple News, but I can't remember which website this came off. Anyway,
Right.
it was basically the same stuff again, though, that Elon says that one day soon EVs will be the majority of the cars. He believes that this tipping point is in about 10 years.
So
when
he's
there'll be
with
more
Dan.
EVs than there'll be gas cars in 10 years.
He's with Dan.
And
It's,
again, some numbers. The first EV that they had was the Roadster in 2008, which was $108,000. 10 years later, we've got the Model 3 and we're down to $46,000.
And it's
How
got
many
a lot
people
more
you think
range.
bought one for 46 though?
With the mid-range one, that's sort of where they're at.
Okay.
In 2012, global EV sales was 100,000. In 2017, it was nearly 2 million.
Yowza.
JP Morgan is thinking that 30% of cars on the road by 2025 will be electric. So
That's huge.
So-
that's the tipping point for gas stations and dealerships.
I mean,
think
that
we've
makes the
passed
tipping
it.
point almost 2020, probably in a lot of ways, right, for gas stations. So that will be kind of interesting. And what kind of socioeconomic kind of chaos could that potentially
have-nots,
cause, right?
yeah.
Like, where do you think the gas stations are going to go away first? Where are they going to stay
Right.
last,
Right.
right?
Yes. In China, EV sales were 550,000 in 2017, and they think the Chinese that it will be it'll be 5 million, a 10x increase in the next sort of 6 years.
5 million sales
Per
in
year.
2025. That is impressive. And
They're
we're going
going
to talk
all
about
in.
the Tesla Shanghai factory.
But
Yeah.
before we do, let's talk about the Tesla Roadster is going to be able to hover off the ground, says Elon Musk.
OMG.
Right.
So if we go to the slides, we can show the picture.
Oh, we can. We can.
Tom is going to he's going to switch that.
Do we
So
wanna
there's a
zoom
picture
in?
here.
Do you want to zoom in a little bit to that picture before I cut to it?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can do that. So there's a picture here. I'm sorry if you're listening on the audio podcast, but it is basically looks like a DeLorean with rocket things on its wheels.
We're talking like Back to the Future.
Back to the
Future.
future car,
Yeah.
right?
And
yeah.
it's hovering off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And in the electric article that covered this, they showed the thrusters from the Dragon spaceship that's about to go up, maybe at the end of this month, that they crafted to lift the Dragon capsule off of an exploding first stage or second stage rocket
Yeah.
to save the astronauts,
Right.
saying they basically have the technology.
That's a requirement for NASA, right? To make
Right.
that a fail-safe crew. Like, the crew has to be jettisoned in like some millisecond
Right.
time frame.
So put something similar to that on your Roadster and hover your Roadster over traffic because the 405 is jacked and I need to get home.
Right. But the thing about this is so all via Twitter, people were calling Musk out like, hey, is he going to do this? Elon's like, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, it said it's going to do something like that, which means it's not going to do anything like that. This is not going to be a levitating car. The amount of thrust you would need to do that with this giantly heavy car because of this huge battery would be ridiculous. But what they are probably going to do, which is what they said when they had months ago, is that there'll be some sort of form of thrusty thrust so you can go around the corner a bit faster and it'll give you a bit more tuggy on the road.
He said, we'll use SpaceX cold gas thruster system with ultra high pressure air overwrap pressure vessel in place of the 2 rear seats. So this is going to be like the SpaceX edition. So we have the Founders edition, $250,000. Get your deposits in now, people.
No, you have to pay all up front.
I know.
Okay.
Your deposit of
$250,000.
$250,000.
It's a big deposit.
Your regular, standard, old, run-of-the-mill edition, and you have to pay $50,000 now, right?
Right, you have to have a $50,000 deposit.
Wire transfer. No cost currently for the SpaceX edition.
I expect that's going to be part of the Founders Edition. But
Really?
he actually said dramatically improve acceleration, top speed, braking, and cornering. And I can't tell you how excited this makes me.
But
How much more can you accelerate before you need a spacesuit with compression?
Well, that's
so that
an
you don't
extra
die?
$50,000.
right, but like, okay, what do you guys really think about this? Like, do you feel like it's taking valuable design and engineering time away from other more realistic stuff?
I think there's a group of people, men, women, over there at either SpaceX or Tesla, who would do this on their days off.
Exactly. I think this
Because
gets them
they
excited.
want to create something that is the most kick-ass car
I'm just
ever imagined.
concerned that it actually will exist, and the first person to flip that thing upside down on their
Kill
hovercraft vehicle on the
themselves.
405
Yeah.
is not going to be good.
Can you
for
imagine
Tesla.
that presentation from EMS? So what was happening with this guy?
He was hovering over the 405 at 180 miles an hour. Jeez. It's not good.
Oh,
Do you guys know how to take care of people with like G injuries?
Yeah, right. Bring out the spacesuit decompression chamber, please. I was just going to say that, I think they might just activate this thing for like track use. I would not want to have the highway patrol interrogating the systems on my car when I've just plowed through like 9 cars and there's got to be some mature, wise use of something like this. But the guys who race, on back roads, Lamborghinis and Bugattis and you name it, they're going to eat this up. This is going to be the most amazing free advertising. And people are going to be like, well, of course Tesla. What? There was a time when there wasn't Tesla? Tesla's everything.
Right. I mean, so instead of like taking out the trunk of a tree, you get caught up in the limbs.
Well, I
Justin
know
Bieber is going to get one of these, and 5 minutes later, he is going to have killed 15 people.
Right.
on
Well,
Pacific Coast
can you
Highway.
imagine being at the
don't bake on the
insurance company? If you're at like
uninsurable.
Mercury or AAA and you're thinking, I wonder what we're going to charge for insurance when that thing comes out.
Could be the actuarial over there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Hello.
How much is insurance? All
Having
of the
a
money.
drink.
How much?
Having a drink
All
on
of
this.
All of it. How much do you have?
How much-
That's enough.
It's all of us. There's an article here from Bloomberg I just want to go very quickly, which is an article about which EV is right for you, and it goes through all the different EVs that are out right now.
And what
It's
was
not a
it?
particularly good article. I just wanted to say this, it's all crap.
What?
Because the only EV, if you want, and I've said this many times, but I'm going to say it again, if you want a real car right now, a replacement for your car right now, there is only one EV in the United States.
That is not a Volt.
No.
This is not a Leaf.
No.
It's not the new
Bolt.
Leaf.
Not a
No.
Bolt.
It's not the Bolt.
No.
Although that's a pretty nice car. So it's not the
It's
Bolt.
close.
For
Not
sure.
Not a
Bolt.
Rivian.
No,
Not a
it's
Rivian.
That's
yet.
not out yet.
Yeah.
No.
Not a Neo.
No.
No.
What is it, Mel?
Still today, 2019, if you want a car that can replace your gas car, it's an S, an X, or a 3. Why? Because of the range and the supercharger network.
So
Thank
you're
you very
saying
much.
it's a sexy thing.
It's sexy thing.
Right.
It's
so
a sexy
I like this.
thing.
It's very interesting. But again, when people ask me, what should I get?
Right.
I'm like, what are you going to use this for? Are you going to putter around town?
Yeah.
Get a Bolt or something like that. That's fine. We'll get a 3. But if you want to use this to drive occasionally to San Francisco or go to Vegas or you have a real car, then there is only one EV still in the United States. And that's not going to change. I'm going to be able to keep saying this for at least, I think, 3 to 5 years because I do not see any other national charging network that's going to be easy for Grandpa to use. Thank you.
So even if an amazing car comes out, 310 miles range, available fast charging, you can charge it at home, which is what you should be doing anyways. It's still not the car.
Not the car.
I think you might be wrong about that. If you get a charger at home,
Depends.
If they do that car and it has, say, 500 or 600 miles range,
Well,
where you
not
where you can do these big, I can drive to San Francisco.
Maybe 400.
Then maybe, because then I'll just charge here and then I'll charge there and I won't have to charge in the middle. Maybe, but it's going to have to be at least 500.
It's CCS dependent.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see the world is going to the CCS charging. That's the J1772 with the 2 big ports above it. And now Tesla's, I think, going to convert all their superchargers in mass to the dual handle.
Here as well?
I think so. And I think everybody's going to go CCS because we need a single standard.
So
do
when
need a
do you think Tesla starts producing nothing but CCS cars?
Well, they have to
December
have
17th, 2021.
Wow, that's quite a ways from now.
that's pretty precise. I expect that like the Model Y will all be CCS plug.
Oh, and that is very
Right.
much
Nobody's
sooner
going to
than
remember
that.
this in a year or two from now, but that is a very bold prediction.
Yeah.
That is a bold
I love making
prediction.
bold
Because the
predictions, but nobody
CCS
will
is going to it's going to increase our ability to charge, right? They say the top end of it is 350 kilowatts rate, and Tesla right now is really the only battery that's going to be able to not quite yet, but soon get close to that because you need all that cooling and all of that temperature control, and it's certainly not a Leaf, and it's not a Volt because you'd blow that thing up.
I'm with you. I think we need a standard, and probably CCS Tesla, some combo of that is going to be the standard.
And again, we need more cars. Like that's the thing, right? So on one hand, Dan Neal, right, is saying like all of the cars are going to be electric by this date. Like can't be all Teslas. That's just physically impossible. That's not going to happen unless Tesla's going to buy every current car factory. Like around the world, they're going to buy a car factory on every continent, and basically that's already ready.
I think a
Gigafactories
big company like Toyota could pivot on this if they had the battery source. I think that Volkswagen could pivot on this if they had a battery source. I think they're all, unfortunately, 3 years to 5 years behind the times. But motivation-wise, just think forward again. Another 2 years or 3 years of massive hurricanes, massive wildfires around the globe, displacement of people, difficulty with crops, food prices going up. How am I going to feel driving around my neighborhood in my big diesel truck when everybody is realizing more and more that the exhaust from all these vehicles are causing this climate catastrophe? And all of a sudden, I'm going to kind of feel like, wow, I should probably get that Rivian.
Yeah, I don't think of it like that because I think people most of the time, it's all about economics. It's just get the price of this down, get the price of charging down, make this a cheaper car than a gas car, and that's when, and that's happening. And that's happening right now, and that's the driver. People don't wake up in the morning who make $30,000 a year thinking, I really need to get an electric car for $70,000 to save the planet. That's not how it works.
Nope.
And on that point of getting cheaper electric cars, guess what's gone?
What?
The cheap version of the S and the X.
So is it no cheaper? You can't get a cheap car anymore?
They are stopping production of the 75 kilowatt hour battery for the S and the X. That's a big deal. That allowed you to get about a $70,000 S and X. And now the cheapest one's going to be the 100 kilowatt hour version. But I say this. You ready
Not
for some
the
math?
90? There
No
is
90.
90?
It's just, there's
90's
only right now
gone.
75
Straight
and 100.
100.
Straight 100.
They're getting rid of the 75.
We know
So
what's
the
coming
question
then.
is, why did they do this? One, some people say this is because they want to put some distance between the cost of the S and the X and the 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And other people, me, you heard it here first, have said what they're going to do is they're actually going to come out, the 100 is going to be the low end. They're going to drop the price of the 100, and they're going to come out with a 120 kilowatt hour S and X. And if you have a 120 kilowatt hour S, guess how far it goes?
400 miles.
Thank you. The magic 400 miles.
Did you just buy a new X, buddy?
Yeah. S.
Least.
Oh, he's getting another S. But that's when they put
no,
this
I'm
one
getting
out.
a Y. So that's really interesting. So for a while, the cheapest by far is going to be Model 3. It's going to be interesting to see what that does to sales. I see, personally, a lot of 75 kilowatt hour S and X's around. Not the majority, but a lot of them.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a bold move. Are they going to cut their market a little bit? Are people going to go like, I'm not going to spend the extra 20 grand, I'm getting a 3?
Yeah, I mean, maybe they'll drive more people to the 3, but maybe that's what they want in the long run, right?
Well, there's still 20% overhead or 20% profit on a $100,000 car. I check my math on this. Is still more money than 20% profit on a $50,000 car.
Wow, dude. I mean, like, that's for sure.
So I
Like,
think
for
they want to
sure.
sell a lot of S's and X's as well.
Okay.
I'm just saying, can we talk about autonomous driving?
I love autonomous driving.
I autonomously drove here.
Yeah, me too. Until I sort of got a little dozy and got the red hand signal.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did. Dude, I've been up for a long time.
No, I said you drove here until you didn't.
I gotcha.
Autopilot safer than a person. This is from Electric. Tesla released safety reports for Q4, which they did last quarter as well, and they said that the accidents per mile were up a little bit. So they say on autopilot there is one accident for every 2.9 million miles driven, compared to the meat bag, you and me, the human, one accident for every 1.58 million miles.
That's really interesting. Is that just for that quarter, or is
Yes.
that
just for that quarter.
overall? Because in the past it had been flipped. It still hadn't been safer.
They said
Autopilot was safer.
safer, and I'm
'Cause
going to
you can
get to
go
all
You
this.
go more miles, 2.9 million versus 1.6 million.
No, I get that, but
Both the Tesla and the human got a little bit worse in this quarter, so maybe there was a reporting issue there.
Or maybe the weather.
The average, according to the National Highway Transport Authority, the average person, the meat bag, crashes once every 436,000 miles. So, you want me to break these numbers down? Let me give you my analysis.
Please.
Here we go. First of all, it looks like Tesla drivers, comparing human to human, are way safer than the average driver.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably
Yeah,
true,
like
and I have an explanation.
Factor of 3.
2 or 3. And I think the explanation for that is that until very recently, to get into a Tesla, you had to be old and rich. And old and rich people probably have been around a while and don't drive crazy and aren't 20 years old. And so you probably had a very skewed population of people that are driving
could be-
compared to the whole group.
Could be argued, though, that you are somewhat senile for
Yes,
having bought
not that
all
old.
those Teslas. And does that really qualify you as a safe driver?
Well, I don't consider myself a safe driver, but we're talking on masses. So that's one explanation I see there. But then why is the autopilot better than the human? And I say it's because it's not true. Because when do you put on autopilot? You put on autopilot when you're on the freeway and you can see the lanes and you put it on. And I don't think that they're comparing that type of driving, human versus autopilot. They're comparing the best circumstances where you would use autopilot
Right.
versus all of the time that you're driving as a human where people are cutting you off and you're on side streets. So I think it is a bogus number and they
Ooh.
keep using the bogus number.
Very smart.
And I just think it's not apples to apples, and I'm just calling you out, Tesla. This is a bit of poopy.
It's bunk, because most accidents don't happen on freeways. They
Right.
happen off of freeways, but most autopilot happens
On the freeway.
freeways.
See,
I
follow
don't know.
my
I use a
logic.
lot of autopilot off the freeway
But you're
myself.
not supposed to. You know that, right? It can't read the stop signs. It can't read the red lights. So you could
Well,
be,
that's what I'm there for.
Yeah, but I think every once in a while you're probably like, oh, I was supposed to stop at this.
No,
you're
that's
very
not there.
attentive, very
No, I'm like watching it. It's a game. I'm teaching it.
Yeah.
I'm the mentor,
Oh,
teaching it how to. And then I do the bug report. Hey guys, you missed that.
Does that
lane.
work for you?
Well, I like doing it.
They're not listening, but he's doing it.
I hope they do.
I really want to keep this going because we've been going for an hour and we are less than 40% of the way
Nah, we're
through.
doing a great job.
We're so. Let me tell you about self-driving a long way off. So another article from Electric. Elon keeps saying hardware 3.0 is coming, and you're going to have full self-driving by the end of this year, 2019.
This year.
This year. But the Tesla salespeople are now telling people the full self-driving package has gone away, and you're not going to see full self-driving for a long time because of regulations. They're not going to allow us to do that for a long time. So you got these two things. Elon's pushing like it's going to be here at the end of the year, and then Tesla on the phone is saying, yeah, don't worry about that. It's not going to be here for a while. But then I read this article, mate. Well, it's not an article. It was a tweet by the Tesla Show. Did you see this?
Yeah.
No.
The gentleman at the Tesla Show, and we really like that show, although I think they're off the air again now.
What?
They said that a little birdie gave
Caleb.
them some
Mike.
specs, and Mike said that they got told by a little birdie of some of the specs of the Model Y. And I want to go through these. Of course, it has implications for autonomous driving. It
Birdie
says
specs.
it's going to be all-wheel drive only. And this was also reported by another Tesla podcast, said he got the same information. All-wheel drive only in the Model Y when it comes out. $35,000 to $40,000 base price. 250 plus mile base model. Autopilot hardware, and here's the big part, 3.5, with the possibility of a Tesla-designed radar system, more cameras than the current one, but no LiDAR and full level 4 autonomy. Level 4 is it can do everything almost. It still has a steering wheel, just in case. Level
Yes.
5 is all the time, no steering wheel. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, 2 years ago, they came out and said hardware 2.0, full autonomous driving, and I ran to the Tesla store as fast as I could.
Yes, you
And
did.
I sold my other car.
You scooped
I'm
one
like,
up.
this is it. And then they're like, sorry, our bad, but hardware 2.5.
Yeah, $260.
Yeah, $280 for your $5,000 that you spent, you idiot. But here's hardware 2.5, and we've upgraded and put a camera here and put this
Yeah.
faster. And now they're like, that's not going to work. Hardware 3.0 is now the Tesla chip in there. That's hardware 3.0. That one's going to be fully autonomous. But they're saying to be really fully autonomous, we're going to have to add another radar and do some other stuff for the Model Y.
But
I
they're
just-
not necessarily saying that what we have now won't do this. They're just saying that this one's going to do this
Well, they
better.
are saying that right now, full autonomy is not happening without the Tesla chip, at least. And what I'm saying is I'm concerned that they're also realizing we need the chip and something a little bit like LiDAR because it can't quite do it.
I think that's a
I'm
problem.
just thinking.
Yeah, well,
Is that not a problem for Tesla? Seriously, like all these people, 100,000, 140,000 people as of right now, bought that Model 3 thinking, someday this thing's going to drive itself.
Yes.
You know what,
It damn well better someday drive itself. That's all I have to say.
well, all I can say is I feel a little better because now I'm not alone. I have 140,000 friends who are with me because I bought the Model S at the beginning of 2017.
You did it with me,
because it was going to be fully autonomous, and I was ready to rock and roll. And I'm not rocking, and I'm just rolling a bit.
So it might be true that the hardware 3, it's certainly clear that you need hardware 3 and they're going to swap it out for those people that have paid for it. That might be able to do fully autonomous driving. And so I expect that there'll be continued improvements and more cameras and more radar so that you go from being as good as a human to twice as good to 10 times as good. So I'm sure that there's going to be continual improvements. I just want to know when it's fully autonomous and better than me.
So
and I'm hoping hardware 3.0, but I'm now a bit anxious that even that's not going to do it.
So as good as a human, not good enough, good enough.
No, it's got to be
It's
better.
got to be better than a
Twice
human.
as good as a human,
gotta
good
be-
enough, not good enough.
It's got to be at least, well, look at those numbers. Tesla drivers are, what did we say, like 3 or 4 times better
Right.
than a human, an average human?
on the freeway in perfect
No,
condition.
no, the human compared to the
Tesla,
human overall,
regular
the regular
Tesla driver.
Tesla
Oh, I
driver.
see.
So it probably has to be 3 or 4 times better than the average Joe.
3 or 4 times better than a Tesla driver.
Well, yeah, I'd like to, before will take my hands off the wheel and smoke some cigarettes and have some shardies, it's going to have to be 2 or 3 times better than me.
You don't smoke.
And I remember Elon saying things like 100 times better. I mean, he was using huge numbers at one point.
Orders of magnitude.
One day,
Multiple
of course,
orders of
that's
magnitude.
possible with more hardware and more computing power, but
And more autonomous
But
vehicles
that's-
talking to one another.
Yeah, I mean, like, right. At some point, when is good enough good enough?
Oh, it will be perfect-ish. But
No-
you know
nothing
what's
is
more
perfect.
important?
No.
Is where are all these cars coming from?
I have no idea. Where do you think
let's
they're coming
talk
from?
about Gigafactory 3 then.
This
Yes.
is very
Show the
exciting
picture.
news. Oh, let's show the picture. We're going to show
Robert, tell us
the
about Gigafactory
photograph.
3.
Gigafactory 3, Shanghai, China. So not only was Elon over there to help dig a little earth at the Gigafactory site and talk with all of these Chinese dignitaries, he gave a bunch of interviews with the Chinese press, and he was even asked, this is not on the script. So basically, one of the Chinese officials, through an interpreter, asked Elon, he hopes that with working with Elon and Tesla, we can somehow thaw U.S.-China relations. I thought that was amazing. But anyway, we've got a picture here of this big field in the Shanghai environs that they have now put a wall around. They've flattened it out.
They built a wall.
They built a wall, exactly. It's a huge area. It's going to be about twice as big as the current Gigafactory.
Was that right? It's twice as big as the current Gigafactory.
The
But not
Gigafactory 1.
The Gigafactory 1 is not complete, right?
Oh,
it's
not the completed
30%
version.
complete,
Okay.
right. So it's going to be a little over 9 million square feet. Currently, Gigafactory in Sparks is 5.5 million square feet, but the Gigafactory in Sparks is planned to be 13 million square feet. So it will not be as large as Gigafactory 1. This Gigafactory 3, though, will be built like lickety split. They're saying that they just flattened the earth and put a wall around it. Now, by the middle of this year, they're going to start producing cars. And that
Yeah, my mind was
blew my
blown.
mind. So, like,
do you believe that?
I don't know. You know, how do you build cars really fast? Let me think about Tesla. Let's see. They had a line. It was all congested. They needed to build more cars.
I know where
so
you're going with this.
They put up a tent. So I don't know. I wonder if they can put up a tent in China. They could probably not give a crap in China how you build a car or what safety there is.
Let's not
They
say. Let's not go.
All right, they give less of a crap than we do here. But, you know, if they get to building the cars fast, that's what matters to me.
I was reading this article, and the tent situation did not come into my considerations.
On
That's
the tweener,
probably
I
a
spoke
word.
about that last week. That's exactly what. Like they could build a shell really quickly.
Yeah.
Stuff coming in, stuff coming out. Tents in the middle. Boom. You can.
But I
build
do
fast.
wonder if the tent in Fremont is really it's there to build the cars, but the factory itself is kind of supporting
Supporting
the
it, yes.
flow of
You
the
don't just put a tent
logistics
out there.
of that's where the
You might
stamping
need some
machines are,
lithium.
right?
The
You still
electricity
need the
came
stamping
from there.
machines. Those aren't in the
Right.
tents,
The
right?
painting.
the paint booth isn't
Right.
in the tent. So
The
there
upholstery,
are certain things
right.
that the upholstery isn't
all
in
the
the
storage of all the stuff.
Should we just go like down the check now?
Yeah,
we'll
the
stop
tires, the
now.
TPMS monitors. I mean, come on, man.
Oh,
Go
the
through it
whole
all.
darn
Can you
thing.
just tell us about superchargers for
But
goodness sake?
but let's wait. Hold on one second. The plan for this Gigafactory is 10,000 cars a week.
Yeah.
500,000.
And they're only
going to
do the low-end Model 3s.
right. So that's a big
And the Model Y.
factory, but that's a
Yes.
very big factory. So we're talking about a factory twice as big as the current factory size in Sparks,
Yeah.
making 500,000 cars a year. What else are they going to be building in that factory?
I
right?
think they're
is
doing
that the
battery
only
backup.
thing? Because they're building 5,000 cars in Fremont, right?
be nice if-
They're building half this amount of cars every week in Fremont in a tent and in 2 lines, and they're building S's and X's also at the same time, and that's nowhere near Giga.
It would be nice if they did everything, right? Panels,
Batteries, everything,
mega
in there,
chargers.
right?
Yeah. And so
Chinese food, delicious.
It's just food there.
that'd be a great.
Oh,
I want to go on a tour. Do you think they'll get us in on the tour
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
after
sure.
we complained for the first half of the show? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to watching. Some dude's got a nice drone flyover. I put in a link in the show notes, and you can obsess over that. And hopefully, we will do more of that over the coming months.
Yeah, very
Superchargers.
Please.
Superchargers.
So I'll take a deep breath.
Superchargers are the most important thing. It's a special sauce. And because they are making so many cars, they're doing 7,000 a week right now throughout the world. That means that they must have, let me just do some math on this. They've got to have had at least 50 new superchargers just in the US alone in the last week or two.
50.
5-0.
In 2 weeks, and it's been
Yeah.
exactly 2 weeks since we filmed our last show. There are,
50?
drum roll, 9 new superchargers
come on.
open. 5 in China.
What?
What? 3 in the United States. Mm-hmm. But that includes Altoona, Pennsylvania.
El Tuna.
That's where I keep my tuna.
Yeah.
Altoona, Pennsylvania, at
Spanish
a
for tuna.
Sheetz service station.
Wait a minute.
Or should I
Don't
say
swear.
milk bar? Sheetz Milk Bar.
I don't
That
get
doesn't
it.
sound right.
No, it doesn't. I don't
It
understand.
doesn't quite
what
roll
we're
off the
saying.
tongue.
Milk
Well,
bar is
Sheetz
a
is like
strain.
you know, it's like
7-Eleven?
I don't know, Rotten Robbie or some of the big gas station outfits. That's big on the East Coast.
He just said gas station outfits. It turned into like the 40s in here. Hey, you know those guys? They got one of those gas station outfits. We got to go get them.
The guys that work in the milk bar. So this is another one of those situations where they had it done and it sat there for almost a month waiting for the switch to be thrown. That makes me
Maybe
crazy.
we should travel around the country just flipping
flip
supercharger
switches. Yeah,
That'd
like
be fun.
yeah, that would be like a ghetto thing to do. Just sort of clandestine,
Not enough
sneaking up,
superchargers.
flick,
What
switch
is
going.
happening? Version
There's
3.
We got 5 in China, 3 in the U.S., 1 in France, 4 under construction, 5 permitted. I feel like I'm in molasses right now. But what's worse
What?
is
It
I've
gets worse?
seen the first permanent closure of a supercharger.
What? Why would you close? You know what?
Yeah.
Bring that stuff over here. We'll put it in your place.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
stick it over here. In the
This was a big supercharger. I think it was at least 12 slots. This was in National Harbor, Baltimore, Maryland. They closed it. It had terrible reviews. People hated it. You couldn't get to it easily. The entrance was all messed up. It was like one-way lanes and near a convention center. The parking people there weren't very nice. They charged you to park.
No.
People didn't like it at all. But it turns out that Tesla has already pulled a permit for the parking lot across the street. They're moving it over there because the lot got sold to build a hotel. So all in all, good things are happening as long as they can get the next one built. But again, it'll take another month for some dude at the power company to flip the switch.
I can tell you, like, I put new solar panels on the house, and they finished doing the install a month, 2 months, 2 months ago, probably. inspector comes over, I don't like this. You wait, and they fix it. Oh, I don't like this. Wait. It's really been a pain.
Yeah.
And he shut down my entire solar system for like 2 months, and I got my electric bill. Holy hell.
It was expensive.
Yeah, apparently the gross domestic product of the United States I had to pay.
Maybe that's why they're doing it. I don't know. It's like, what's the...
There's no incentive for them to do it, and I have a particular inspector, and you know who you are, who is being very nasty.
Well, maybe there's a silver lining to this situation. Maybe the silver lining is that they're just busy approving solar systems on roofs across the greater Los Angeles area, and that's what's taking so much time. But what I don't like is that he came and saw one thing wrong, came back and saw another thing wrong. That's no cool.
So let's talk about the solar roof. I said that I got the email, and actually from Electric by Fred Lambert, they noted that these solar roofs are taking about 2 weeks to install. Elon said back in the day that it should take about 5 to 7 days, which is the same amount of time it takes to put on the average tile roof.
Yeah.
But right now they're not doing that, and that's going to add to their expense because labor is expensive, so they've got to get this faster. And maybe we're getting to the point now where the bottleneck is not so much the production of the tiles, but the installing of the tiles onto said roof. They've got to speed that process.
Maybe. And if you really, really are feeling bad about not putting a solar roof on your house, I mean, I got a house.
Oh, that's funny.
Just
Feel
put
free
one on
to
your
drop
house.
a solar roof on my house. I could use the extra juice.
Yeah, you know, I got to watch today. Tim, who I work with, had his app out, and he was just dialing it back and forth because they finally turned on his power wall, hooked up to his solar panels, and he's got it set. He's adjusting like what percentage of the battery pack you will reserve if there's a power outage. And he says he's had it between like 30 and 20%. Then he's going around his house and he's turning off like the power strip that goes to the TV, the TiVo and the VCR or whatever. And he goes, and he's noticing that there's all this phantom drain.
Yeah.
And he's making it last so that I think the last 2 nights he said he ran his house on the power wall until like 3 in the morning. And then it just needed a couple of hours of like refrigerator time. And he's got his family kind of gauging when they're going to do laundry so that they do it while the panels are taking electricity from the sun. And it sounds like he's really kind of changing his lifestyle based on the sun and the energy and minimize his expense with the power company.
And it would be interesting, maybe, I don't know how close of a friend is, maybe he could give us some, like, this is what time of day I do this is what time of day I do
like
that.
some pointers.
Right, he can give people some tips, and we can have that on the show.
Tim, it's a call out, man.
Tim, come on, Tim.
I'm going to get mine installed maybe in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then 2 months after that, they'll turn them on. And I can't wait to do that same kind of thing. Like, when should I charge my car? And when?
So it'll be interesting because you'll be able to basically put one completely in reserve, right? So I wonder if you'll be able to independently kind of play around with that situation where you never are pulling from one. One's always full in case, because you don't know when a power outage is going to happen. It happens. I don't know if you guys knew that about the power outage. Right?
It just happens.
They're just random.
They schedule them.
Like they're not like 4 a.m. Power's going out.
And we're going to have an earthquake around here in about 2.5 days. That'll be great. Let's talk about the Iridium spaceship.
So SpaceX, today is what, January 10th as we record this?
Yes.
Tomorrow, January 11th, is a SpaceX flight from the Vandenberg.
Oh, in the morning.
In the morning.
So once you listen to this, it'll all be done.
That's correct.
Or maybe
So
not.
Yeah, no, it was great. Wasn't that a great launch?
Yeah.
Well, what if they
amazing.
didn't?
It was
what if they
great launch.
postponed
Oh,
it?
wait, let's do an alternative ending. Oh, that's a terrible what happened in that
Yeah,
last
it's too bad.
launch.
That didn't
Wow,
work.
that's really
well,
sad.
the way that thing flew off and landed in the middle of Los
exactly,
Angeles
and the
was
spin
terrible.
thing.
This
Yeah,
is
that was
terrible.
awesome. But
Well, I just
anywho,
got a tweet on my watch that said it's happening in T-minus 12 hours.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
7:30.
What are they putting up there, Thomas?
Yeah, so they're putting the last of the Iridium satellites. And I don't know how many people know that much about the Iridium satellites, but this is a constellation. This is going to be the 8th launch, 66 working satellites with 9 in orbit as a backup. So they could lose 9. And then I read something else, I think, in this article. There's a few of them just hanging out on the ground in case the 66, those 9 go, and then the 9 backups. Like, they got a lot of fail-safes. But this satellite is the Internet of Things. So
Yeah.
your Samsung television,
I don't have a Samsung.
your
television.
Samsung refrigerator,
Yeah.
all of those things. This is what
The
it's gonna
Samsung
track.
things?
All of the boats and the ships that we talked
Right,
about.
so they have a
It's gonna be all
special
of that
tracking
stuff,
system
right.
for boats and ships that they'll be able to watch, and airplanes.
I shipped my
They're
pants.
gonna,
All of them.
they're going to be able to track endangered species and monitor power lines.
Endangered species
those
have
are-
GPS
Those are two very
receivers?
well. I mean, they put the collars on them
Oh,
and the
okay.
chips. You know, they catch them and they go dink, and then they put them back in the wild and they follow them
Are
around.
we going
They're
to
like,
watch
wow,
taco chips
look
as
at
I'm
how-
eating them?
No. It's like a microchip.
Oh,
sort of a
microchip.
situation. Yeah, it's sort of different
Gotcha.
than a chip. But
Oh,
the
that's
global
exciting.
market for this Internet of Things is going to go from 157 billion, which is where it is currently, to 457 billion. So like a few launches out of SpaceX, 8 launches, they didn't cost $450 billion.
No way.
Somebody buy me some Iridium stock. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was they.
Hello.
You know, I think it was maybe a year or a year and a half ago. You were talking about buying a satellite phone for your son.
I did. It's Iridium,
There you go.
and they keep sending you emails. It got a little better. It got a little bit better.
It's like
It
a
got little
Tesla.
bit better.
It's
was
like a Tesla
what
of
is
a sat
happening?
phone. That's great.
Right.
Nice.
That's
Very
pretty
cool.
So, in additional SpaceX news from ours,
There's more?
Technica. This is the more important. Now, that's important. Launched tomorrow or 2 days ago, depending on when you watch this thing. It was good or bad, depending on which part of this you watched. Hard to say at that point. Is the Crew Dragon demo is like a flight away, but Elon tweeted it's going to be especially dangerous because it's the first flight of this new thing. So, are you guys excited about this? The first test flight expected to this will not have astronauts on it, but is eventually expected to transport astronauts to the International Space Station. This flight's going off January 17th, so a week from today, seven little days. But they don't think that that's going to actually happen because apparently the government shutdown is having some impact on the preparations.
Yeah, it's definitely slowing things down. I wish they would get that together. I know somebody who puts on a conference in Yosemite. I think that's going to probably get shut down.
Oh,
It's just kind
that's
of
pretty sad.
jacking up a lot of people. But
Yeah.
when this thing goes off, that's going to be so sweet. There were some really nice tweets that showed the picture of the crew arm
Yeah.
that comes out from the launch tower.
Beautiful.
It looks really, really futuristic. And you'll notice that this Dragon capsule looks different than all the other Dragon capsules because the lower half of it is all black and it has these 2 little wings on it. And that's all solar panels. So instead of when the Dragon capsule gets separated from the second stage and unfurling this sail of solar panels in both directions, it won't have to do that. It's all self-contained. So
Nice.
it'll just pitch so that section of the capsule faces the sun, and that will energize the systems on the capsule while they're drifting between the launch ship and the ISS spaceship.
I shipped my pants.
Oh, you did it again. That's a good one. So NASA, this system has a less than 1 in 230 probability of a loss of mission. That's what NASA's requirements are for a crew capsule. SpaceX has some advantage in that it's flown the Falcon 9 rocket dozens of times, and it has flown earlier versions of this Dragon spacecraft
just go back for a
16
second.
times. Yes, sir.
Do you realize what they said there? You have a 1 in, the way I'm reading it, a 1 in 230 chance of
Yeah.
dying every time you get
That's
into
the
that
max
thing.
specs.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem too good to me.
Well, I mean, space travel is very dangerous. So for all of you putting down your $200,000 to go to Mars, that's what you're looking at.
1 in 230 failure rate. Now, maybe not everybody dies every time it fails.
Loss
But I'm
of
s-
mission.
Loss of mission.
Nah,
Like
maybe.
lost-
Well,
Well,
like
the
you're
hope
going up
is-
and then they're like, oh, it's going to blow, and then they
Right,
pop
the
you off
hope
at the
is-
last second.
Right. That's
Yeah.
supposed to be part of it.
But I don't like those odds, mate.
No, they're not. They're not great odds as it
No.
as it pertains
What if we
to that.
said, getting in your car, you had a 1 in 230 chance of a fatal car crash? You would never get in your damn car.
No, there'd be no chance of it. That's why there's no chance I'm going to Mars, my friend, right? And there are astronauts selected for the first flight.
Yeah, I thought Mel might be able to introduce them to
Oh,
us.
please.
Okay, you got Dougie Hurley. He's
Uh-huh.
one of them, mate.
That's pretty good,
And then you got your Robin Benhoonken. Benhoon.
It's probably just Benkin.
Ah, Benkin. Yeah, Robert Benkin.
It's probably
That's
just-
what I meant to
This
say.
is Robert Benkin, but they're going to go So how many chances, like, would you want them to try to test the capsule once?
No,
twice, a
I'd
dozen
like you to like a
times?
couple hundred
Nah,
times,
once is
1,000.
fine.
Right, but if they do it 200 times, right, and it never fails, now you're down to 1 to 30.
That's true. That is good math. I believe that is statistically correct.
No, they're going on the second ride up, number 2.
I can't believe that.
You know what would happen if I was on that? Number 2.
Cheerio.
Oh, I see what you just did there.
Cheerio.
Thank you very much.
Can we do some potpourri and do some media picks?
Please, I have no media pick this week. You know why?
OMG.
Because I don't like it.
I got
Because you did them all last
I gotta show a picture really quick. Can we do a close up of this?
I don't know.
This is just came
maybe.
over the Reddit.
Here we
This
go.
is an actual photograph of the Starship.
That's not going to work. It's not in focus.
Oh, forgot. No, we can't. Starship is big.
You have other computers in front of you.
Yeah, but
All right, it's
it's
fine.
too hard technically.
All right,
This
let's not do
is
it.
unbelievable. Do you see what I'm seeing?
Yeah, so
It
it's
looks
it's
like a
shiny.
1950s.
Right, do you remember Tintin?
Yes.
The cartoon
That's the
character? Like, this
rocket.
is what
Yeah.
it looks like, the Tintin rocket. It's very shiny, very chrome. There are some things about they're building a prototype in Texas, and I read this article,
Yes.
and we didn't put it in the show notes, but it's got like these panels with seams, and I'm like, there's no way I'm getting that one's like 1 in 2 chance of like
Yeah.
not doing good things.
Yeah, it does look kind of skeletal, almost
Yeah.
like it's a prop from a television show.
Yeah.
But
There's pictures
I don't
out
know.
there though. Look for it. Like,
It's
just
pretty
search
cool.
Tintin Tesla or Tintin SpaceX.
no,
rocket.
you can just search on the r/SpaceX
Okay.
Reddit page. Elon Musk on Twitter, Starship test flight rocket just finished assembly at the SpaceX launch site. Actual picture, not a rendering. I think it's really cool looking. I can't wait to see that thing hop about.
It's gonna be sweet.
Shall we move
Media
on?
picks.
Yeah, I got inspired by your media pick from the tweener,
Yes.
the Talking Tesla 140 tweener.
Thank you.
And I was like,
Inspiring.
I watched a couple of episodes of Black Carbon, and I thought it was really weird. And then I didn't pick it up again. But then I heard you talk about this Bandersnatch.
Thank you.
What does Bandersnatch mean?
I don't know, but it sounds rude.
Yeah.
Move
well,
on.
evidently, this show really upset a bunch of people.
Yes, it
And there's
did.
a bunch of articles about it where you basically get to choose your own route through the show. And I actually had a spreadsheet that I had pulled up of the ways in which this show could change. And there's like,
This show?
no,
This show could get better.
Bandersnatch.
I mean, that's a long list. Now, you're not. Thank God you're not talking about this show. We're
Yeah,
almost
in
done
this
here.
show, we only have 2 choices.
Yeah.
Continue listening, maybe a bad idea, and turn it off.
Okay.
And then go do something more
All right, that's a
productive.
lot of options.
But this was really cool. So I'm really looking forward to watching this Bandersnatch.
All right.
You're going to be disappointed.
The well, but it depends. You got a different ending than I might get.
I just got frustrated with the process of why are you making me choose things? I just want to
Yeah,
watch.
like what kind of breakfast cereal do you eat? I don't eat breakfast cereal.
Yeah,
So it's kind of weird, but evidently the breakfast cereal question means nothing. It's just sort of an empty question.
Yep.
And I'll show you the spreadsheet that you can look at. There is an entire flow chart that people on Reddit have come up with for this show, and it's just really whetting my appetite.
My son did the whole thing with his girlfriend. They said it took him 3.5 hours. They tried a whole bunch of different things.
Right.
And,
Yeah, people on
and he's
Reddit
like,
are...
and I hated it. So, whatever.
Well, you know what the
Bandersnatch.
Charlie Booker, who's I guess the director, but his responses to everybody who's complaining about it,
Yeah.
fuck off, do something else.
Oh,
That's
you
in
just said that.
quotes.
But
It's
that's
true.
just a-
It is
that's
true.
a-
I
that's
love
a-
the way people just lose it over. It's like, you chose to do this.
Yeah.
You chose to watch it. And then you get really angry about it. It's like, no, just do something else. Like this show. If you're angry because the show is terrible, stop
Just
listening.
turn it off.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And
well,
it
we should
is.
probably just stop now because of that.
Well, I was going to say my media pick is the Tom Clancy series Jack Ryan on Amazon Prime.
Watched
I
it.
just finished watching that with my son.
It's good.
It was good.
Not amazing, but it's
No,
good.
it's predictable ending, but I liked it because I did a lot of studying in disaster medicine, and it just got me all remembering
Yeah.
all those horrible scenarios, and they did a good job on that.
Does he beat people up?
He did hit a few people.
Yeah, that's what I reckon.
Yeah, it's the gentleman from The Office.
I know.
Yeah, my son is a big
Kransky,
fan of
what's
The
his name?
Office,
John Krasinski,
and he's like,
yeah.
I'm not going to be able to take him seriously.
Yeah. A lot of
dude
people
from the-
have that problem with
Yeah.
it. That's probably why it's a 74 on Rotten Tomatoes.
And he's married to that other action actress. What's her name?
Wonder Woman.
Who was in the... I can't remember her name. But she does a lot of action movies too.
Okay.
Shall we get to the letters?
Yes, let's do the Patreon comments first.
Oh, wait,
and first
this
we got...
is fun. This first one is the best.
Yeah, so let me just everybody hang on for a second. Here we go.
Uh-huh.
Zebnik Velvoskoskiankinski.
Oh, you were so close there. You took the first name kind of seriously.
Yeah.
And then the second name I think you had,
But you
and
went off
just
the
decided
tracks.
not to do it.
Let me try it. Veselovsky. Veselovsky.
Veselovsky.
Nice.
Is that pretty good?
Nice.
Very nice. I did it.
Zbigniew Veselovsky.
He's written into the show at least 5 times, so I'm glad you've practiced all this time.
Yeah.
And what did he have to say?
He says, I know that I'm late, but it's fantastic you guys are back. He loves the show.
We are back.
He's giving Patreon money, but he's pigeonholing it just for a higher stool. And I think...
It's here. Look at the size of my stool.
Actually, I think Zebnik, what he's going to be doing next week, he's just going to take a saw and cut about 3 inches off the legs of my stool. And then,
We're
that's
pretty
what you're going
close
to
right
see.
now. The
Yeah.
height thing is
It's
fixed.
pretty tight.
You've got long legs.
He asked if we saw any
Delicious.
of the planned hardware design updates for Model S. And I think he meant the interior. And so I went doing a little looking, and I found a photograph. I guess we could put this, we could show the listeners who are
you
listening,
zoom into that bad
watching
boy?
on YouTube. And if you are watching us on YouTube,
There it is.
you can definitely subscribe to the show and leave us a nice review. But this is an interior shot of the potential new Model S.
There's no binnacle.
Well, there's a small binnacle. You don't see it here because it's hidden down behind the steering wheel. There's another picture that shows it, but the big change is that the dash is cleaned up. There's the singular vent that goes across the front, like in the Model 3.
Love the vent.
Yeah. The main screen is now horizontal, like the Model 3.
As it should be.
And they comment that this would make it easier for the UI, the user interface engineers, so that there would be one version of a main operating system.
And as the Model 3 is the better car, it's the better system.
And they plan something like this for the Model X as well. They also talk about what was I going to say? Making a rear seat console, putting in wireless phone chargers, making softer seat cushions, increasing the premium interior quality so it's more on par with the Mercedes and the other expensive cars. Again, further differentiating SX from 3 and potentially Y. I threw in the Model S and X going to a 21 by 700 cell battery pack, which would be easily bringing it up to 120 kilowatt hours.
Thank you.
I think that's coming. Plus, I think those 2170 cells are the ones that are going to be able to tolerate the fast charge rates of Supercharger V3.
I'll wait for you guys after I'm done charging when you're still in your S's and X's.
That's
waiting
true.
for
Well,
the
it is
slow- for the
but it
slow
is a heavier
charging.
car, and it's going to use up more energy.
That's true.
All right.
But I think, I'm curious. Now, I've had no binnacle for a year. You've driven the 3. You drive the 3. When you're driving the 3, do you miss it? Do you miss not having the upfront display?
It's
has
funny
no
because I
impact.
hadn't been missing it, and then I was in the wife's new X driving
Yeah.
at night, and it was really nice to be able to look down at that display and see that I was between the lanes.
Yeah.
So sometimes I miss it. During the day, I don't.
Laney 9300, she came home the other night and she had taken my car out and she looked down and she thought like her car was broken, but because there was no binnacle, there was no upfront display, and she's like, and then she realized, oh wait, I'm in the Model 3. That's why it's not
Nice.
there. But it's a horizontal versus land,
Right.
like
Yeah.
vertical.
Well, it's interesting. I'd be curious to ask people who've switched to the Model 3, and there are now 140,000,
Yeah.
what they think if they've gone back. And I think that might be dependent on how much autopilot you use, because the more autopilot you use, the less you miss the binnacle.
That's true. Yeah, I use a lot of, and I did a test this week because we'd been talking about range degradation.
Yes.
So I decided to fully charge my car. So I put that slider all the way up to the trip thing, fully charged it till it was done. 310 miles on the button.
And how many miles do you have on your car?
over 13,000 miles. on my
So
car currently.
essentially, no degradation after 13,000.
That's not even essentially no degradation.
That
It's
is
absolutely no degradation.
Actually, it's only going to go 150 miles, but the display says 300.
But I tested that too. So I went 310 miles, and then the first 25 miles I drove, I mapped it out, and it was like almost spot on. And I was a couple of times I was hitting the 83s to like get around a truck and stuff like that. So even with that, the actual range is pretty close, pretty spot on.
That's pretty exciting.
Rich Grandling
Yeah.
basically said he's over there in the Kentuckys, and he went to some national parks out west, and he went to 34 supercharger stations and didn't wait once. And I say, liar. Colin Ross says, look, love the show. It's great format. Listen to half of it while I've already done this one last week. He's listening to Red Moon, and he likes the show.
He's moving on, but I say beware. Once you finish Red Moon, there's 2 more.
Are these last week's letters?
Yeah, I don't know how these...
I don't know. I didn't
last week's goes in there. There's a couple of... Eric Snappit. And he says... what does he say? I agree with your point.
He's
about
responding
the
to
tunnels.
my complaints or my concerns about the tunnel, flat tire, car breaking down, stuff falling off a car. And he says he wonders if there's going to be an escape tunnel or some way for cars in the tunnel to swerve and get around. At the moment, there is a singular tunnel.
Yeah, you could do, but he talked about like stacking tunnels and having a fast tunnel and some side tunnels, but you could maybe do that like the Italian job or whatever, and just like drive your car upside down if you're going fast enough, like up the side of the wall and around. It is a roundish tube. No, bad idea. Yes. Let's not do that.
Let's move over to Stephen Lundgate.
Stephen Lundgate said
Ludgate.
he watched the YouTube channel, and we
says-
are not as he imagined.
No, he just said, now I get to see what you guys all look like. Dot. And I wonder, like, what the hell do you think we look like, Stephen?
Probably thought I was the handsome one.
Well, you have the handsome
That
voice.
was not true.
The Mac says, look, Tesla's been talking about their next battery level technology during the financial calls during the 2018s, and that it'll have zero cobalt and perhaps another 10 to 15% improvement in energy density. And they said they'd have their tech ready for mass production at the start of 2019. And I say,
Bring it
we'll
on.
see.
But
Bring it on.
So 10 to 15%, this is a question I have for you guys. 10 to 15% energy density, does that mean Tesla will reduce the amount of batteries and keep the range the same and save a little bit of money, making less batteries, no cobalt, and then they can increase the price of profit per vehicle? Or do they use that energy density and my 310-mile Model 3 or someone else's 310-mile Model 3 then becomes a 340-mile Model 3?
I think from all of that we've
How
talked...
can they do both?
They can do both. They can just have a cheaper car and a car that goes further for the same price. Or
So you're saying make 2 different cars.
make 2 different
Two
cars.
different batteries is what you're saying.
No, I'm saying using that tech, you can drop the price of the car because you'll put a smaller battery in it, but it'll still go the same range.
Oh, I see.
Or you can put in the same size battery, but you can shove more energy in there, and it'll go further.
So you're saying that would give them, like, they would have the mid-range car and the longer range car?
Right. Or you just say, yeah, so yes.
I think...
I'm just
Yes.
kidding.
I think that if you ask anybody out there right now who drives a gasoline car, what are the top 3 things that will keep you from buying an electric car? Of course, one will be charging, right? We've talked about that ad nauseum.
Also, 2, 3, and 4 will be charging.
Yeah. Range anxiety.
It's range, exactly. So I think Tesla will always shoot for that holy grail of 400 miles, which is like on average the low end of all the gas cars. And so that's 400 to 500 miles is the sweet spot for an automobile.
It is if it charges fast. Now, range, like 500 miles of range in a car that takes an hour to charge 30 miles.
Well, you might not do that all the time, like fill up a gas tank. You might go home, plug it in, you'll have 500 miles.
Yeah.
If you go on a long trip, after 500 miles, man, my butt hurts. I got to get out for a while. Then your car will charge up. It's not that big of a deal.
The other good thing about a 500-mile range is that you'll be able to fast charge it to 400 miles super fast because you've got that extra capacity. And
Hard
you
to
got to slow
push in
down
the
a little
last
bit.
part.
So Stephen Peters says pole position is not just for your Model 3, Thomas.
That's true.
It's on the other ones as well.
And I said, great to hear, except that it doesn't help me because I don't have
I wonder if it's
MCU
also
2 car.
impossible to play in the Model S.
Yes, I'm sure it's impossible.
Hey, I
anyway.
had fun. My son and I were playing some video games the other night, and all I can say is I was humbled.
You were
He's
playing
a much-
video games in the
In
car?
the car, yeah.
What were you playing?
We were playing the one with the spaceship. You had to land on these
love that
craggy
Oh,
things.
that one's so hard.
Yeah, I blew up everything. He did it. He blew up once, and then boom, he stuck the landing on a 5-pointer. You know, like one of these peaks. I was like,
Millennial.
holy shit!
I spent so much money on that when I was 12. That was my favorite.
Lunar
game.
Lander, I believe,
Lunar
is that
Lander.
one.
Lunar
Oh,
Lander,
I spent so
yeah.
much money on that.
I'm good with asteroids. That's
Joseph
my game.
Voigt.
Let's just call it Voigt.
He was in Scottsdale, and they were doing a delivery event, and they had a whole bunch of portable chargers.
Interesting.
And he was like, well, maybe they'll start doing more of this and bring over the solar packs and all that stuff
But
as well.
but you're skipping over the most important part of this thing.
What's
they
that?
were powered by a rental generator. So they were being chargers powered by the fuel of the fossils.
I did miss that because it used to be you'd go to the Tesla service station down the road. What were we calling it?
Man eyes?
Man Wise. And they had
Wise.
this big giant diesel generator out the front there for months at a time. I was like, oh, the irony is thick, as is the air.
Terrible.
Zbigniew Volopsky again.
We did it again. He had it and he lost it. He went away from him.
I can't remember all he says. He's like, icing here in Europe is not a big deal. There are some crazies everywhere. But he also said that Robert should start kneeling next to Mel so that you get the height about the same.
Yeah, that sounds like
And
something
I
out
say-
of a Monty Python flick.
That
Maybe
I don't
not.
care about having destroyed your name now.
That'll
Philip
teach him.
Wilson.
Nice.
Hi, Talking Tesla.
Hi.
Anywhere I could find a list of your media picks? No. But I like the Energy Show, 99% Invisible, Pod Save America, Memory Palace, and I could go on for hours.
They're in the show notes, but we got Drilled. We got
Drilled is a good
All
one.
Quiet on the Western Front.
Shittown.
Shittown.
Can't say that.
Serial.
It's the name of a show. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Well, it's S-Town.
S-Town. Right?
Yeah.
But they should be in the show notes, no?
I'll tell you what, Philip, I challenge you
Oh, my goodness.
to go through the shows, put them together, put them in a Excel file.
I challenge you
and
not to do
we will
that.
put that on the website, and you will be the author.
And if you do that, we are going to get you a CAT scan. Steve reads, charging stations and semi-trucks. I followed your podcast almost since its inception.
Yes.
I'm sorry. There's medicine for that.
It's gotten better.
Love it. I'm an internist in southwestern Ireland. Can identify with several of your points. A couple of comments, if I may. Semi is pronounced with a long I, not an E
So
sound.
he's saying semi, but you said semi.
I know.
Like right at the beginning of it.
I am not able to change the way I say words.
He's
Your
not
recent
of this
comment on the
continent.
charging station that went up in Lincoln, Nebraska, fails to take into account Lincoln's location. It is on the I-80, a central corridor across the Midwest, and is 355 miles from Des Moines and 59 miles from Omaha.
Omaha.
And I don't
What's the
care because I
point
don't
of
live
that?
there.
He made
Joel
fun of
Sapp, Joel Sapp, who's the president.
President.
What predictions do you have for the new year with the EVs?
They're going to sell more of them than they did last year.
I predict that too. Let's bet on that one.
He thinks Supercharger 3 is going to be announced very soon. It's going to be able to do an 80% charge in 10 minutes.
Can you imagine how spectacular that would be?
Yeah.
I think Mel would lose his.
80% in 10 minutes. If they do that,
He's so good.
and you come back with a rant after the next holiday drive,
If they do that
I'm
and it
gonna
is
dump
sustained,
you in the ocean.
if it's sustained when there are 20 other people there, I will come here and I will officially apologize to Elon. He's got some other stuff here. He believes that Tesla will pass the worldwide sales of Porsche next year. I think that's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
As well as Jag and maybe Land Rover.
Didn't it already happen?
Elon will cancel or do the coast-to-coast drive by Q3 2019. You can't have it both ways,
You're going to
mate.
cancel it or do it?
Yes.
Well, either he'll do it or he'll say
cancel
it won't be done. Yeah.
And I say the same thing, that they're going to produce a ton of new cars, that Mel will grow as tall as Robert is a real possibility. But I think the Model Y, this is the year of the Model Y, baby. We're going to see a Y
Yeah,
and we're
March.
going to see a pickup. We're going to see both.
Why?
Ides of
Because
March.
we like Earth.
Of course, it's great.
Ides of March.
John McGinn says, it was brilliant. Great to see what you guys look like in reality after listening to the show for a long
In-
time.
Reality.
Yeah.
With the quotes.
I'm glad to know you guys are as ugly. You're uglier than I thought you were.
Did he say that?
And he said, I
Me
pronounced
too.
his name correctly. Thank you very much.
Nice. Good
And
job.
he's going to be a Patreon member, but can he get the tweeners and the Patreon stuff that's behind the wall? And the answer is yes, there is an RSS feed for said things such as that.
Although that has become very confusing, right? Because we keep the show numbered sequentially, but if you're a Patreon, you only get to hear all of the shows. But if you're not on the Patreon, then you get like 40, and then you get 42.
That's the
and then
point.
you
Is
get
to
40.
produce this anxiety.
Because-
Oh my God, I better go become a Patreon member.
Or they just think we don't know how to number things. Maybe they think we left you in charge of the numbering.
Just throw a couple bucks at the Patreon and enjoy it.
Wanker Levied.
Let's call it
Levadi.
Wonka instead of Wanka.
No, actually, it's Wanker, mate. He's from the Netherlands, and then he tries to explain yet
that
again
Holland?
what does that mean. We are from the Netherlands, which, for the record, is also known as Holland, and as a people, we are Dutch and speak Dutch. Though technically, my wife is from Los Angeles.
So
this
why
is
couldn't he
very
just lead
confusing.
with that part, that his wife is from Los Angeles, and call it done, and that we got the rest of it right? Why does everybody feel the need to point out our idiocy, even though all we do is point out our idiocy?
And he talks a lot about supercharging and about destination charging, and then it can be quite expensive there in the Dutch Holland lands or whatever it is. And then he puts in a screen grab of thing that I can't possibly understand because it's in a language that is not
Well, let's just
one
pick
that I
one
speak.
line. Just read one line.
Blitzen, schwoten, warten, duden, wüten, schieden, daten, touchscreen.
That is not Dutch.
And they have a lot of speeding tickets there in the Netherlands, and they charge a lot more if you go over 60 kilowatts of charging. And he charges at home, and I don't know.
He only got
very,
one speeding ticket so far.
very long, and he lived in Australia, and he knows that wanker is a word for somebody that's like, you're an idiot. And he's like, that's my name. Don't make fun of it. And I did.
Well, I like
And then he shows some beautiful pictures of supercharging in the Europes. And,
without any blue in the sky.
look
Oh,
at
wait,
this.
no, there's blue in the sky in the
there's
second
blue
one.
in there. Come on.
These are nice superchargers. I like this.
Now, Sven or Stefan Peters.
That's Steven.
Steven Peters, yes.
Yeah.
This is a really great video that he links to, which
Okay.
is very interesting. So what he did with his Model S, I think it was.
So
Model
Steven
S,
has his own YouTube channel.
has his own YouTube channel.
Yes.
It's very good.
Friend of the show.
So
by
what
the
he
way.
did
Very good
was
friend
that
of
he
the show,
put some
yes.
duct tape over the ultrasonic sensors, and then he tried to change. There was a car next to him, and he tried to change lanes to see if the car would, change lanes, and it did. It was like, oh yeah, it's all good.
This is an old video.
It is an old video, but then he did it where he was thinking at the time when he did the first video, well, once they start using the other cameras, will it change lanes?
Oh, interesting.
And he put stuff over the ultrasonics, and then he tried to change into a lane into a car, and it wouldn't do it.
Nice.
He's like, oh, it's way safer. So version 9, now using ultrasonics plus cameras, won't crash you into a car like the old version would have.
So if you have a failure of your ultrasonics,
Right,
in
well, you
this
got
particular
crap on it,
thing, right, or
poopy on it.
something's going on, I don't know how you poop on the side of an ultrasonic,
Oh,
but I
I'll
mean,
show you
whatever.
later.
Yeah, thank you. That'd be fabulous. So that's great. So this is like a follow up to his other video. So safer begets safer.
John Ford is back. John Ford is our climate denying friend, and John is back. And normally, I would say I think we're past this. We're not going to do the climate denying thing anymore. But he does bring up something that's important because it is absolutely bullshit, and it's this, Johnny. He said, "Look, the last couple of years have been cooler than the prior years, even though CO2 levels has gone up. Therefore, that proves that CO2 is not the driver." And in fact, this was predicted by the climate scientists well before this because of the El Nino year. And you can actually go onto a variety of governmental sites across the world that said, this is going to happen. You're not going to have the same acceleration right now. And then once this El Nino year is finished, it's going to be just like in 1998. Boom, the spike is going to be back up. Take a step back, look at the graph, see how it's going up and up all the time, with a couple of times where it plateaus a bit, and then it goes up again. So this was actually predicted by the climate scientists and by their little computers, which just goes further to show that they are getting even better at predicting what the temperature is going to do.
Yeah.
And we're effed if we don't fix this.
Yeah.
Thank you for proving my point by that letter.
By the letter.
And I'm
yeah.
just going to notice here that in the font size that we use in our show notes, being 11,
Yeah.
this last piece that Mel added is in font size 15,
Yeah,
which shows an enormous increase in font size, which matches the enormous increase in CO2 levels. And that tells me that if we don't fix this, our show notes are going to move to 100 pages long instead of the, 15 or 20 pages we are now.
But,
21.
Okay, and he bought a Model 3. But seriously, why, dude? What the hell is happening with you? Like,
It's a good car.
no, I
It's a good
understand
car.
it's a good car, but like, okay, what about ocean temperatures in this time frame? Like, it's
But I know. So John, I'm
how
sure
about
is a nice
glacier
guy.
disappearance in this
Yeah.
time frame as well. Like,
And that's why I say, at what point do you stop? And I'm basically have stopped now, but I brought this up because people will hear this, and it is true. At what point do you just stop arguing with people that are basically refusing to accept science? So I no longer go up to people who, and I still know some people who's like, smoking doesn't cause cancer. It's not bad for you. I'm like, okay, if you want to believe that, that's fine. I'm not even going to get into the discussion because the evidence is so overwhelming. You're choosing to be ignorant. And there is more evidence. There is vastly more evidence for human created climate change because of rising CO2 than there is for smoking and lung cancer. And so it's just getting ridiculous.
it's 98% of the world's climate scientists.
no,
It's 98%.
nothing in science has a 98% of the scientists agreeing. It's insane.
Nothing
But
in
if you
anything
look at
has
the level of
98%.
evidence compared to other things that we know and we accept, it is so far beyond that
Yeah.
that it is just insanity. So we're going to stop talking about it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
It's happening.
it was Talking Test the 141.
Or was it?
I thought I was great.
You were.
I did not think
Yeah.
I was handsome, but I did not think you were handsome.
You were not handsome, but you were also not taller.
I was not taller.
I have a critique of the tweener.
Wait, which tweener? This tweener?
No, the tweener that came
What
before
did I do
this, the
wrong now?
140.
But-
What
you-
did I do?
You did not, at the end, throw your hat onto the camera.
It's upsetting. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's
How about
Talking
today?
Test the 141.
Okay.
The hat's coming off.
Yeah.
I'm going to find the camera.
Do you know which camera it is?
Oh, you're going to switch them
Guessing it's
up?
that one there, and I'm going to chuck it. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Oh! Next year.
We're out.
No, it's
Wrong.
already next year.
Wrong camera.
Wrong camera. Damn, we got to have lights on the cameras like they do in a real studio.